we finally have NFL football back. I remember, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 episodes ago saying we had 100 days until the NFL season. Kind of just got sad there for a second. I remember KJM saying that, missed that morning show so much. Man, ESPN with the layoff, she took one of my great morning shows from me. But we do have the Lions at the Chiefs to open the NFL season. Chiefs are favored by 6.5 points, over under of 54.5. And when you look at the X factors for this game, what's really going to have this game decided? What is going to be the deciding factor for this game to be won in the season opener of the 2023 NFL season? I take a look at that Lions new and improved defense. I love the draft. I love the players that they brought in, but how is that defense going to fare against Patrick Mahomes? Because you bring in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who was arguably the best safety in the league last year. Jack Campbell as the rookie, who you can argue it was the best linebacker in the draft. Brian Branch, who is by far the best safety in the draft. That's not even a debate. And Cameron Sutton, the corner, that came over from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Great defensive culture. They send Jeff Okudah out of there to the Falcons. He was never really able to stay healthy. But those four major players coming in, that's going to be a big deciding factor because we know Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed have one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL, if not the most high-powered offense, since they literally were the number one offense in the league last year. How are they going to fare? Because we know that this Lions defense has been horrible. They have not been good over the last, X amount of seasons, and really at least the last few seasons when they bring in Aiden Hutchinson, when I feel like they should have taken a Jalen Carter over a, Jack Campbell or over a Jahmyr Gibbs early on at 12, or even a Jack Campbell later in the draft. A lot of better defensive players that could have been out there for them, but nonetheless, they do bring in those four guys specifically as part of the highlights. And next to Aiden Hutchinson, I'm going to be excited to see what all of these guys can do together. But will they be able to actually stop Patrick Mahomes? That's something that has yet to be desired. I feel like the biggest story here for Kansas City is how are they going to fare with Chris Jones' holdout looking more likely than not? How much is it really going to affect them? The possibility of him holding out, they're going to miss him a lot. They're going to miss Chris Jones so much in this game. It's on national television. It's the season opener. He's their best defensive player by far, and he's a top 5 defensive player in football. Rated a top 10 NFL player by his peers, 15.5 sacks last year, maybe the third best player on the team behind Mahomes and Travis Kelce. 39 pass rush wins last year against double teams that led the league. Now, fairly enough, I got to be full disclosure. The next closest one's an injured Aaron Donald who had 25. So you got to ask yourself, who's after Chris Jones? Is it George Karlaftis, who, yes, did have 6 sacks last year? Is it Charles Omenihu? Is it other players that are on that defense that maybe have yet to make a name for themselves? Of course, Trent McDuffie is in the secondary. I do respect him as a player, but he's not there to effectively rush the passer. And we know pass rushers are up there for people next to quarterbacks that you must pay. There are 3 positions in football that you have to pay no matter what. Your quarterback, a pass rusher, and a corner. We know that wide receivers are getting up there as well. Running backs have never been the case. The tight end market is tight too. But those 3 positions that I named first, you always pay them. And Chris Jones falls into a pass rusher that needs to get his money. But you also look at defenses in this game. Which defense is going to step up in a more than likely shootout? Because we have 2 very elite offenses going up against here, going up against each other. And when you look at Mahomes, again, Kelsey and Reed versus Jared Goff having a very solid season last year in Detroit. Not Dan Campbell. You add Jahmyr Gibbs. Jameson Williams, unfortunately, is suspended for this game. He could be an X factor if he was playing. You've got him on Ross St. Brown. I hate that they get rid of TJ Hawkinson, right? Because you imagine the piece that could be there now for him. But of course, they bring in Sam Laporta, who was, a well-touted tight end in the draft as well. But on paper, if we're talking about what defense is really going to step up, on paper, it has to be the Detroit Lions. All day, every day, twice on Sunday. Because the talent that they added is undeniable. Again, CGJ, Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, Cameron Sutton. That's all secondary players right there. The reason I wanted it to be more pass rushers is because the Lions couldn't stop a nosebleed when in terms of running the ball last year. They were horrible at stopping the run. And so you don't want to see the same thing continue to happen when, again, you could have taken that chance for a possible Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith to put next to Nathan Hutchinson. But hey, it is what it is. But again, some of the worst defenses over the last few seasons. So they have to prove it to me for this team on paper as a defense to actually step up in the season opener against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I can see a couple turnovers in this week one matchup. I really can. If the Lions defense clicks like it's supposed to, and possibly throw something at Mahomes that not maybe he's not seen before, but just to surprise him in week one. And maybe he doesn't expect that Lions defense to really come out there and play at the type of level that they really can. Are they just going to be coached to that point? Because now the Lions defense on paper, I love what it shows me. I do. Aiden Hutchinson, along with all the other players that they added. I actually want to go pull up the depth chart because I feel like I'm disrespectfully not mentioning some defensive players here. Come on now. All right. Don't awkwardly wait to load on me while I'm live on the show. That's what I get for not being prepared, though, right? But let's go position by position, or rather unit by unit, break this down, at least for the ones that I pulled here, and see really what the final verdict of this game will be. So, quarterback play, Patrick Mahomes or Jared Goff? Well, I'm going to take Mahomes, of course, because he's the best quarterback in the league, reigning MVP, reigning Super Bowl MVP. But Jared Goff, I think, will compete and put up his fair share of yards. Now, Mahomes is 5-0 and 18 touchdowns, no interceptions in his season openers in his entire career. So he has the chance, of course, to go 6-0, keep that interception or that non-interception streak alive. Now, Jared Goff, again, last couple seasons in Detroit, especially last year, he had that, 10 more touchdowns in the previous, than the year before. Proved that he could be that, pivotal person in the offense to really help it go to the next level. And we all expected Jared Goff to meld and really play shitty in Detroit. So the fact that he has performed that well for those 2 years, and especially last year, does say a lot. You look at the head coaches, Andy Reid or Dan Campbell. I almost said Jack Campbell looking here at his last name. Of course, it's Andy Reid, no doubt. He's at home. And under Andy Reid, Kansas City's record stands at 9-1 in such matchups, aka opening up the season. So Andy Reid does have a nice opening day streak in the NFL that he is looking to keep going because it's an 8-game win streak. Again, he's 9-1 in such matchups, and going back to 2015 has not lost a season opener. When you look at weapons for these two teams, Chiefs or Lions, it's kind of crazy because the Lions boast much more talent than Kansas City in the running back room, and especially on the defensive side of the football. But Kansas City, I believe, wins out in receiving because I do believe that Kadarius Toney can be impactful. I do believe that Travis Kelce can really kind of account for two players. If Jamison Williams was playing next to Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown and whatever Sam Laporta will show us, I would probably be able to easily lean Lions for most of the defense, or most of the weapons. But it does come down to, again, they have much more talent in the running back room. I like what Jahmyr Gibbs brings to the table. I have respect for Pacheco, CEH, and Jerick McKinney. RIP to CEH's career. I don't believe he should be down there in the third spot on the depth chart, but clearly things change when you go from college football to the NFL. And I know Detroit won 8 of their last 10 games for the season last year. I know that they won 4 out of their last 5, but this is a new year. So, score prediction, schedule prediction, who is going to win this game? 35-31 Chiefs or 31-28 Chiefs. I believe this is going to be a shootout between two of the NFL's most elite offenses. And let's not forget the last time these two quarterbacks played each other, we witnessed maybe the best game of all time, 54-51 on Monday Night Football, third highest scoring game ever. It was an insane amount of passing yards between the two. And you thought Kansas City would have won that game. No, it was Jared Goff and the Rams in those lightning yellow, navy blue uniforms. It was a good game. I actually watched that game in the first apartment that I ever rented. Uh, it was a very good game. It was a very, very good game. But there you have it. Lions at Chiefs prediction. I really think it's going to come down to which defense is going to be able to step up the most because I believe this is going to be a shootout. On paper, the Lions have that capability. But at the end of the day, Kansas City does reign supreme in the quarterback and head coaching department. Lions will come to play on opening night, but I'm either going to go 35-31 Kansas City or 31. Matter of fact, let me pull it back. I'll go 31-28 Chiefs here.